Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. My name's Acacia. Today is still review week, and I want to review something that I want to review two books together because I believe they both touch on a subject that is very prevalent to today, to the current political fight, to feminism, to women's rights to their body, and so on and so forth. I also know that these two women are very frequently considered shallow. Um, they're celebrities, they're blonde, and one of them is not the skinniest girl, but she's not heavy. She's not plus size like I am, but she is a more average size, and the other one is definitely smaller. Bless me. I'm not sure which one to start with, so I will start with Amy. As you can see, there's no book. It's because right now my dad has this book. He's getting into it, I believe, or has. I don't know. But either way, this is making the rounds in my household right now because I've been thrusting it into everybody's hands. It, from the cover, looks very scandalous and shallow and a little sexualized. Amy Schumer is identified as a sex comic, and she is identified as someone who is raunchy, very loud, boisterous. I know some people consider her a racist, which I'm a little, I don't know. I have my reserves on that comment, but I'm not here to talk about what people are accusing her of being. I'm here to talk about what she has demonstrated in this book that she is. So, Amy identifies as an introvert. She identifies as someone who needs time alone, who needs space, who needs to be able to recharge with quiet. And I don't think that is something that I would have first considered just knowing about her comedy to be who she was. She is very loud and boisterous in her comedy. She also is she talks a lot about sexual escapades in her comedy. In this book, she really addresses the fact that she actually has only ever had one one night stand. She's had probably 5 long-term relationships that are committed, and those are all of her sexual encounters. She is in her 30s, and those are still all of her sexual encounters, and what she does is she takes from each of those sexual encounters and she puts them into her comedy and makes them sound more exciting. Seems fair to me. When I went into this book, I knew it was going to be a little weird, a little raunchy. It was going to kind of have a darker tone potentially, but nothing too serious, I didn't think. I was wrong. And I'm glad I was wrong. I'm glad that this went a little more serious. And the reason that I want to talk about this book and the next is the topic of consent. Amy in this book opens up to her viewers and her readers that her first sexual experience, not sex, but sexual experience, was a non-consensual act with a boy. And she does not identify it as rape. She just explains that the first time she was sexually active as a person in a foreplay sense. The gentle, no, it was, so the way she explains it, it's really hard to read the chapter where she explains it, because she explains it so honestly that you feel so uncomfortable. And for me, I kind of fizzed out on a bit of it because I couldn't stomach what I was hearing. I couldn't stomach what I was reading. I've now read it once and I've listened to it on Audible once, and I'm listening to it on Audible again with my mom when we have time together. But that story where her first experience was one without consent, where she was just spending time with a guy and he decided he was going to go for it. He decided that they were going to be intimate. He decided, and she wasn't part of that discussion or decision. That is not an easy thing to admit, that was your first experience. That is not an easy thing to overcome. That is also not the type of man that she is describing who would assume a right to the body of another person. That is not the type of man that I want in charge of my country. So this talks a lot about that. It talks a lot about the idea, and the conversation of consent comes up throughout the whole book a couple of times, where she explains that there have been many sexual encounters where things have gone further than she was comfortable with. Even though they may not have led to sex, they at least were just uncomfortable. They didn't feel right. Someone touched her in a way that was more than she would have wanted or anything like that. And I gained a lot of respect for her. I always liked her comedy. I really did. And I still do. But this kind of gave me a new level of respect for her, in that she explains her father's MS. She talks about herself as a child and as somebody who's really struggled in life. And I'm sorry, I should be looking at the camera, but I'm like trying not to cry. And I'm not trying not to cry because her story is sad. I'm trying not to cry because I feel so terrible that so many women like her, and the woman I'm about to talk to after, are slut-shamed for what they do. And labeled in a certain way, regardless of whether or not the label is accurate, because of their representation of themselves, if that makes sense. Amy is an adult woman. If her comedy was honest, and her comedy is honest, but if what she allows her audience to believe is an accurate depiction of her, being that she is somebody who is sexually active frequently, that's her business. That's her body. That's her choice. That's who she wants to be. And it's not slutty. It's not whorish. It's not right to slut shame a woman for being as active as a man might be, and him being rewarded for it. So, Amy is now a hero of mine. And this next book, this next person, I never thought I would say that a Playboy bunny was someone that I respected. Because in my mind, as a child growing up, Playboy was just not something I went near. My mom had always made it very clear that it was a overtly sexualized women. These women were choosing to take their clothes off, which I don't want to say that my mom put this situation, like, put it in my head that women who take their clothes off are bad. She didn't. But there was always this, you don't want to be like them kind of conversation. Or this idea of, well, they must have had something go wrong in their life kind of conversation. It was almost like there was no way that any woman could decide that she wanted to be naked. And that's how I grew up feeling, was that there was no way that a woman could make that kind of choice. She must have been forced into it. And one of my heroes is Marilyn Monroe, who was a playmate and a centerfold, but she was not a Playboy bunny. So the woman I'm talking about now is Holly Madison, and this is Down the Rabbit Hole, Curious Adventures and Cautionary Tales from a former Playboy bunny. I went into this thinking it was going to be cutesy, adorable, just kind of fun. I downloaded the Audible for free, with a credit from Audible. And, I felt so bad after I went out and bought a copy. Now, you guys remember when I hauled it the first time, it was paperback. Well, the paperback is going to somebody. So, because honestly, I wanted the hardcover because look at those end papers. Can we talk about the end papers? It's just a very girly book. It looks very happy, very pink, very fun, very alive. And it is. It's very alive. And there's definitely some drama and some stirring of the pot sort of stuff. There's definitely some girl-on-girl crime. But what I went into this thinking it was and what I came out realizing it wasn't are two very similar things. It was a story about a girl who went into a job unaware of the boss's style of running the show, unaware of the dangers that came with the territory, unaware of the mental... This book opens with Holly admitting that she'd considered suicide in the Playboy Mansion and decided against it because she didn't want to be another girl forgotten in the mansion, as far as someone who was just like pushed under the rug and they kind of pretended they never existed. Holly Madison actually acted as Hugh Hefner's main girlfriend for a while, and the misogynistic mental abuse that man instilled in this woman is unacceptable. And the fact that the first time that she was actively sexual with Hugh was non-consensual as well is disgusting on his part. He is essentially date raping women. And it's considered his right and his just part of the job kind of thing for these girls. Like, oh, of course you were raped by Hugh Hefner. No big deal. And I'm using the word rape because when a woman goes into a room with a man and he assumes he's going to have sex with her and then he does and she never says yes, or she's under what he calls the thigh openers or quaaludes, rape. And this story took such an honest and dark turn through the Playboy Mansion. And yes, there's definitely some fluff thrown in there. There's some what looks like glamour to the outside, but Holly really breaks it down for you. She really explains what it's like to live in a situation where she's being ruled by a misogynistic jackass. And here's my problem with both of these stories, and the problem is not with these girls. The problem is not with their stories. Hugh Hefner is one of Donald Trump's heroes. I'm gonna put that out there first. Second, right now there's a lot of talk in the media about Trump and sexual assault of different women. Now, I don't know the specifics of what happened to any of those women because I wasn't there. And I'm not them. And I'm glad I'm not them. But I have been raped. I have been sexually assaulted. I have been in situations where consent was fuzzy. There is no gray area, guys. If she says no once, it's not up for debate, and it's not a matter of can you convince her. I don't want a rapist in the White House. I don't want someone who thinks that women are a second-class citizen in the White House. I don't want someone who believes that women are our property to be in the White House. I don't want that. We've passed that. We've had that. We've probably had jerks in the White House before, and we'll have them again, but this feels different. This feels dangerous. This feels scary, and I don't want any man or boy to grow up believing that if they behave like Trump, they can get into the presidency. It's not a message I want. I'm not even talking about just voting and all of that right now. What I'm talking about is what our sons believe is an acceptable behavior, what our children believe is their role, what our future could look like if we put someone into the White House that puts males and females in such separate categories and consent as such a whatever kind of conversation. Women have a right to their body. They have a right to their mind. They have a right to their opinions. If they want to have sex, they are more than welcome to. But as soon as they say no, or as soon as they're uncomfortable, if they say stop, you stop. I know this video got a little dark really quick, but those two women are so underhyped as women who represent a female group, and so uncelebrated as females because they're not. It's a different type of feminist is what it comes down to. There's different levels of feminism, and I myself identify as a feminist, and I probably always will, and I hope to always identify as a feminist, and if I don't, I'm gonna need you guys to check me. But for me, I want to be a full-time mom. I want to be a mother and a wife. That's a dream for me. But that's my choice. And as a feminist, I have the choice to make those choices. I want the right to choose whether or not I'm a mother at home with my kids 110% of the time. I want the right to choose if I want to speak up against bullies or rapists or ignorance. I want the right to speak. And if Trump gets elected, my right might be silenced. Or at least he might attempt to silence it. I don't want to see a generation of women silenced. Women are so much stronger than we're given credit for. I mean, you give life. Your body has the capacity to make a human. That's incredible. And these women, Amy and Holly, understand their right, their value, they're to be respected and honored, and I see them as heroes, and I see them as women that I aspire to have similar views as in certain aspects. I hope that this video does okay. I'm not trying to offend anyone. I'm not, and I'm not trying to make any comments about Trump supporters or people who believe that Trump should be in office. You are all right to your own opinion, by all means. But this is just my argument as to why he shouldn't be there. And this is my thoughts on why he shouldn't be there. These are my opinions, and I have a right to my opinion. So I will see you guys in my next video, which will be much chipper and much shorter. And I'll talk to you guys then. Bye.